Elisheva's aunt and grandmother, both offered to raise her. But Rico said no. A loving, committed father, devoted to family, he would raise her on his own as a single dad. Many wouldn't have been able to go on, but Rico decided that his life path would be his choice. He would choose to always find a glimmer of hope, to see the positive, and to live by it. This would continue to be a theme throughout Rico's life. Rico lived with faith in overcoming the pain of Laura's suicide. He believed in living fully, making the most of each day. One of the highlights of Elisheva's life is the year when he left his law practice, bought a camper, and took Lizzie on a road trip for a year when she was 8 years old. What an extraordinary life experience to be 8 years old and on the road with your dad, camping, fishing, Colonial Williamsburg, Disneyland. The road was an education that couldn't be found in books or a classroom. It's Rico's zest for living and learning that inspires Elisheva as the wonderful educator that she is. Rico didn't marry again, but he did have significant relationships throughout his life. With Sharon, he became a father again to Sarah in 1975. And jumping ahead for a moment to just this last week, when I visited Rico in the hospital for the last time, I blessed him that he should feel at peace and feel whole, and that there should be nothing left unresolved or unsaid. And at that very moment, he turned to Sarah and said, "Some have referred to you as my other daughter, but you are not my other daughter. You are my daughter. I have 2 daughters, and I love you both." Those early years of Sarah's life were not easy, as Rico went through a difficult period in his life, a time that some might not have survived. But Rico went into recovery, made amends, changed his ways. He even changed his name. In 1989, when Fred, as he was at the time, had a heart attack, it solidified everything he had been working on in recovery. Changing his name to Rico not only helped trick the angel of death, but Rico just wasn't Fred. The name was a little too unimaginative for him. Plus, he said when he was waiting for a table at a restaurant, they called Fred, too many people looked up. Rico, like his name, was unique, unconventional, quirky. After these changes, he and Sarah grew closer and developed a meaningful relationship. She began to stay over once a week, and though she and Lizzie were living in different households, they took trips together, and Rico taught them both how to ski. Family was always very important to Rico. He went out of his way to attend family simchas. Even this past October, just before he ended up in the hospital, he traveled with his oxygen to a family wedding in Georgia. Rico has many dear nieces, nephews, relatives here in Israel, and special acknowledgement to Barry and Eva, who've been especially by his side this last month. Rico had strong values and passions. He, having grown up in segregated Alabama, he believed in equality and worked for equal rights and justice. He fought for and won the right for a widower like himself to get child support. He fought for and helped achieve Title IX and the right for girls to play sports, and that Sarah was a soccer player was one of the things that he was most proud of. He was involved with the ACLU, and apparently, according to a newspaper article Elisheva shared with me this morning, he was an attorney who defended the rights of nudists to go be nude at marine beaches. He was far, he was always an activist, advocating for us to be a greener community, for us to do more in feeding the homeless. He cared and he gave of himself, volunteering at the JFCS food bank. And in the 1990s, he opened the Marin Law Center, which empowered people in the law by giving them the tools to advocate for themselves. He believed in making law more affordable and empowering for people, leading them through the process rather than doing it for them. Rico was passionate about health. He took 25 vitamins a day, had a great will to live and to thrive. He was diagnosed with this lung condition 13 years ago. It was supposed to kill him a long time ago. He kept on enjoying life and loving relationships. Patty has been his dear life partner and travel companion, enjoying together these past years trips to Hawaii, Europe, Israel. Rico felt good about living with her and his ability to commit to their relationship. He loved her, and she gave him stability and balance. With Patty, everything has a place, and with Rico, every place has a thing. They were good together. When Elisheva and Sarah met Bob and Andy, Rico could not have been happier. He loved his sons-in-law and was thrilled to have them in his life. What could be better than watching football with your son-in-law? When Sarah introduced Andy to her dad for the first time, even before they were engaged, the first thing Rico said to Andy was, "When am I getting grandchildren?" So as you can imagine, he appreciated and loved Amelia and Max so much. Seeing Max weekly and Skyping with Amelia in England weekly. He was so proud of his daughters, their husbands and kids, and he had abundant love for them. Rico's other loves, dogs. He always had a dog. Many of you remember Rosie with Rico for 14 years, who greeted everyone when they came into the Marin Law Center. Music. Rico's last event before he ended up in the hospital was a Bob Dylan concert. Music played in his hospital room constantly this last month. And to honor this and Rico's spirit, the family has brought in a kind of Dixieland klezmer band that is going to be accompanying him to his burial at the cemetery. A bit untraditional, yes, but that's Rico. His loves, his house in Mill Valley, up on the mountain with its great views. He loved to host and entertain, and his home was as quirky and as special as he was. Political activism and giving and making a difference. Even this last month in the hospital, he spoke with his daughters about charity and giving and what organizations were important to him, and you can find it on the card, this beautiful card that you all received. And finally, although there's much more to be said and you'll hear from others, telling jokes, stories, and having a sense of humor. He'd say, "Let me tell you a story," and 90% of the time it was a joke. Rico had a great ability to live in humor. Even with all the heaviness in his life, he was able to find lightness. When I saw Rico for the last time this past week in the hospital, he knew he was at the end of his life. And he sat there with all of his tubes and his oxygen. But he was wearing a colorful shawl, a bright neon orange beret, a rainbow-colored leg just like these. His toenails were polished by Amelia, and jazz playing in the background. And he gave me a blessing. And it was so Rico, an unconventional man who loved life, gave generously, fought passionately, and loved deeply, who wouldn't let life's pain crush his humor and his joyful spirit. He leaves the world with so much of his love in it.